Greetings, Earthlings. You probably noticed over the past couple of videos I've been using different background music, but that's because my buddy Necros and I wrote a song called Cardboard Crack. I'll leave a link to it in the description. It's available on all streaming platforms. Go give it a listen. And if you like it, then let me know. But without further ado, today, we're going to flip the script again and talk about tank commanders that have made other people want to toss toddlers. Starting off, we got Falco, Spara, Pactweaver. Now, just like the Anthony Mackie character, all this Marvel knockoff wants to do is make you believe it's the true hero, because not only does he make you groan when he hits the table, but he just refuses to go away. And admitting that he's your favorite card isn't something most people will say out loud, like people who like Nickelback. And just like how I originally built this deck, it gets continuously destroyed by much more fluid decks, so it needed a revival. Proliferate decks usually love to kill you so fast that you're throwing up your own intestines, but nobody's favorite Smash Bros character here loves to drag the game out as much as possible. You may think yourself, I'm sure you do, you may think you're leaving yourself vulnerable by yoinking counters off of your creatures, but the amount of spells that can be cast in doing so more so makes up for the fact that now your 1/1 bug is a 20/20 that's waiting to feast on your flesh. Most Bant decks love to pillow fort themselves to the point where they can ignore the table and take a depression nap, but this beaked douchebag only pillow forts himself while the rest of the board juggles their own limbs around like the world's weirdest carnival in order to subject you to their twisted ideals of pinning you down while a track star comes and kicks you in the head at a rate that shatters your eardrums. If you play this as your commander, I would get Dutch ovened in your sleep. Next we got Stonebrow, Krosan hero. Wait, what? An old Gruul commander? Okay, sure. You may think this bolstered half-horse, half-dildo douche with the world's weirdest axe isn't a threat, but when you ramp out so fast that you leave Usain Bolt in the dust, you better brace for impact. +2/+2 seems like a small ask, but when you could do that for as many times as you give yourself combat steps, it becomes the ultimate threat, because while you may be sitting behind your own huge creatures, Klopper here is too busy curb-stomping the rest of the table and juicing up his army to such a degree that they'd make your house look like the ending of Carrie. Except unlike any sort of remakes or rehashes, you can at least rest assured that this is the OG. Being trampled by huge shit is Green's specialty, but that doesn't make it hurt any less when your field isn't even a speed bump to the overrunning Black Friday sale of combat prowess. If you play this as your commander, I hope you pinch a nerve when you crack your neck. Next, we got one that I've been looking forward to. We've got Inala, Archmage, Ritualist. The time has finally come to address Professor McGonagall in her villain era. While she may not be the last Eminence commander I'll be talking about, she's definitely the most overlooked. I've covered that keyboard warrior of an ability to death by now, but Red's ability to double up creatures and ETB effects is something that haunts people's dreams at night. And we're not even going to mention the fact that Demir loves nothing more than to shank you in the kidneys with a sharpened toothbrush because you decide to wake up that morning. The speed at which this Dragon Age protagonist can end games is similar to welding without eye protection, because you'll go blind before you can even say it's
a hang like slave of wizard.
Besides, I see you all. I see you. I'm not ignorant to how degenerate some of you are, so I know you fantasize about paying bottom dollar for twins. Except the grim reality is those twins are from The Shining and waiting to kill you. If you play this as your commander, I hope you walk through a screen door. Next we got the first one I made a video on. We got Hakeem, Loreweaver. This bearded mountain man whose only true exposure to nature is taking a piss in someone's garden reinforces why women choose the bear. Mirage has some pretty underrated commanders, but none of them compare to the fact that even a restraining order can't keep this criminal away. Do you like having enchanted creatures? That's nice. Too bad they're weak-willed and will fall subservient to this hypnotherapist, all because he overthrew their god in a display of power so immense that it created a crater where a tentacle monster once stood. Like someone who never grew past their 90s phase, this hipster of a commander obsesses over the value of old, so he laughs in the face of modern mechanics in favor of a landline phone with a transparent shell, so you just see all the wiring inside the house as a dead wasp. If you play this as your commander, I hope you give yourself brain freeze. Next we got Elas, il-Kor, Sadistic Pilgrim. Now at least I know with this one I can make a G.I. Jane joke, because I won't get smacked by someone's insecure husband. I mentioned before how Ojutai commanders love wearing dismembered fingers, but this characteristic chemo patient just chews on it like a teething toddler, because while you're over there suffering, whenever she slaughters her own kind, she gets a grin in sadistic glee as she summons new minions in their image. And it's even better when some of those minions share her exact viewpoints and add to the carnage like the Craft. And that's not even the worst part. With 2007 Britney Spears there could just take an umbrella to you without even acknowledging your existence, because she could just ignore your feel entirely. Okay. How many more ball jokes? How many more ball girl jokes can we make here? We got who's a Sinead O'Connor, Amber Rose, whatever that is. Gypsy, no, she's got hair now. Yeah, sure. If you play this as your commander, I hope someone's grandma's disappointed in you. Next, we got a newer one I built. We've got Ashnod Flesh Mechanist. People love to mock Power Stone tokens like an ugly kid, but just like that same kid, those unassuming kidney stones can get so immense that they'll turn around and make you regret any ignorant thing that's ever left your mouth when they're being used to summon something so expensive that even futurologists can't be ahead of the curve. And that's not even mentioning the fact that this necromantic enthusiast of black market organs can kill you with a flick of a wrist. 1-mana commanders are normally a glass cannon and have no impact, but we're talking about the OG here. When you have a literal fucking altar named after you, you're bound to draw some ire at a table. Most artifact decks love to combo off at a rate that makes Street Fighter players nervous, but all this bob-haired bastardette wants to do is sell her minions on Craigslist so she can hit you in the face with a shovel. Death Touch commanders already make people nervous, but it adds an extra level of anxiety when you run the tools necessary to just JFK any creature at a moment's notice. If you play this as your commander, I begin a sliver in your toe. Next, we got Ojutai, Soul of Winter. Now, you might be thinking, how is a 7-mana commander that doesn't have any actual killing capabilities a problem? Picture this. You're walking down the street, minding your own business, and all of a sudden, the streets become frozen. Cars driving to power lines, your balls hide inside your body, and you're facing down a literal dragon that will ALS Ice Bucket challenge your ass with its fucking breath. Being burped on is bad enough, but Kyurem's halitosis could strip the skin off an elephant. High CMC commanders can be unassuming, but when you ramp so hard that you make people in wheelchairs nervous, it's not a very tall order. Dragons are notoriously expensive to cast, but the evil white bitch there infuses them with necromancy and a hatred for any hell spawns. Now, Called High may be the plan of winter, but in Nordic lore, but Tarkir came back out of the depths to turn your ass into a piss popsicle that's chained to a sacrificial ice dick, because the levels on which this commander can fuck you sideways can only be described as a crucifixion of Sub-Zero before. Yes, can only be described as a crucifixion of Sub-Zero proportions. If you play this as your commander, I hope your knee pops out of place. Next, we got Strefan, Maurer, Progenitor. Now, I already went on before about another blood-sucking dickhole's ability to make you hate Twilight even more, but this one actually does something with all the blood collected from his victims, like if Bram Stoker rewrote the Cell Saga. Cheating out creatures is something I've covered extensively on this channel, but when they're literally immortal at the cost of your own sanguine sanity, I'm a fan of self-sacrifice for the greater good, and I can appreciate a being sneezing out something so terrifying that it makes you wonder what was hiding in their nasal cavities, but it's a whole different ballgame when you're throwing water balloons at each other, but your balloons are frozen. So instead of exploding water, it's just a concussion that will leave you scarred for life because your brother thought it would be funny. Sure, it'll melt after the fact, but the damage has already been done and now everybody hates you. If you play this as your commander, I hope somebody's baby cries when you hold them. Next, we got Titania, Protector of Argoth. Now, I did mention before how much I love rampant value, but when that ramp can potentially summon titans out of the aether, pardon me if the idea of having a literal tree dropped on me isn't overly appealing. With poison ivy that you got from a guy in an alley, you can just sit back and masturbate while tectonic plates just slide around like the world's most dangerous game of curling. It starts to become a little worrisome when your house gets overtaken by the Great Wall of China, even though you live in Alaska. Turning lands into waste is usually something reserved for nuclear warfare, and overtaking them for your own bidding is something that a guy with a tiny mustache made a really bad habit out of and was not popular. So you can imagine anyone's disdain when they get to watch more deforestation in favor of more sentient beings that could flick you into the stratosphere because you pissed in a bush one time. If you play this as your commander, I hope an ant bites you in the foot. And then finally for this time we got... Seriously? Okay, we got Dromar the Banisher. I mentioned before about commanders that are obsessed over colors, but this racist atmospheric dictator will gaslight you into thinking that playing a monocolored deck is a fun time. Most control decks like to lock you down on the board, but this asshole just wants the field gone if it's not a color that he likes. Like a spoiled rich kid buying a car. You thought I was gonna turn that racist. 6 mana for a commander these days seems like a tall ask, but when you're basically cyclonic rifting every turn, I'd say it's a pretty fair trade-off. A good amount of earlier cards dealt with specific colors and changing them, and just like old 60s commercials, some have come under fire over the years for caring a little bit too much about color. And similar to people who think those were the golden years, they've aged like a fine head of lettuce. Most dragons want to turn you into a pile of ash, but all Captain Vape Clouds wants to do is popcorn lung you out of his personal bubble. And unless you're Michael Jacksoning other creatures, you're probably going to end up bouncing your own board too. If you play this as your commander, I hope it rains on your birthday. Alright, well, you know the drill. If you like this list, let me know. We're almost at 500 subscribers, which is really fucking cool. So let's keep it going. I got some cool shit planned. And without further ado, definitely make sure you rap that like button and tap that subscribe button. Practice safe gameplay, you dirty bastards. And I bid thee farewell and misfortune.